Welcome to the Green and Golden Boys Packers podcast.
Coming to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
I'm Charles.
And I'm Marcus. And this is a Packers podcast for fans living inside enemy territory.
This is the new sound for the new era. All right, Marcus, how are you, man?
Charles, I'm doing well. I'm not going to lie to you. I got a little bit emotional at the end of that game.
Huge comeback, man. Let it out, brother.
I know I'm going to try not to get choked out. Just thinking about everything that we've, and I hate we as fans, but like everything that this team has been through the last couple of years, especially Jordan Love, how he's
everything we've been through.
Yeah, everything we've been through, you know what I mean? But like thinking about how much, Jordan Love really has been through the last couple of years, how he's been so kind of stoic and poised throughout this process. And I think there are so many more people out there that want to see him fail than want to see him succeed. And a lot of them were thinking through 3 quarters of this game, oh, yeah, look at that. Jordan Love kind of sucks, da-da-da-da-da. Going into the fourth quarter down 17 in his first home game. The game was, a game, if you ask almost anybody, was over. And people were leaving the stadium, but they didn't give up, and I wonder, how much of that is just resilience or confidence or attitude, or if it's just like naivete, like, oh, well, this is fine. This doesn't really matter. We're only down 17. We're going to come back and win this one. I was so excited and happy to see how this game turned out. Not only because as a fan that you want the Packers to win, but like just the implication that it has for Jordan Love and the team and Matt LaFleur and his coaching staff. And it was I got a little bit emotional. I was really, really happy to see that. But man, can you believe what happened? I mean, that's the tied for the biggest comeback in history for the Packers, a fourth quarter comeback at least. And I think it's tied with the Bears game when Rodgers came out with a knee injury and then came back in, and we all know what happened after that.
Yeah, well, if you're getting emotional after that big win, I hate to imagine what emotional damage the Packers put on the Saints fan in an unbelievable comeback. So I unfortunately listened to most of this game on the radio, which was great. It was fun. But you should have seen me pumping my fist, jumping up and down, driving up Highway 52 from Rochester to Minneapolis. But yeah, man, I mean, it was wild. I think it was the plays were there early, and that we just weren't making them, and our defense did a heck of a job. Even down 17-0, our defense only gave up 10 points. So like, in a weird way, it felt possible. I was one of the people that didn't think it was going to happen. As soon as, honestly, Jordan threw that pick, I'm like, this is not going to work out for us. I was kind of starting to think about, some of the things that we would talk about on this podcast today. But, kind of like when we had Aaron Rodgers, you score one touchdown, all of a sudden it's a game. Like a 10-point lead is not safe anymore, right, in the NFL. And to your point, I don't know. I mean, the plays were there before. They all of a sudden started clicking in the fourth quarter. Our defense really toughened up. Yes, they lost Derek Carr, but I mean, Derek Carr, again, our defense was pretty stiff with Derek Carr, and they stayed that way with
Jameis Winston.
They did it there. So in a weird way, yes, it was amazing, and it was just unbelievable, and I did not think it was going to happen. But kind of, if you take a step back, it kind of makes some sense. It's like, oh, all of a sudden we started hitting our plays. All of a sudden Jordan Love was looking really cool, calm, and collected, like I've said about him every game so far. And then you just have to get lucky, right? The other team, the team that loses, has to be complicit in that kind of loss. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But it was so cool. I'm so glad that to your point, for just big picture, the doubters are kind of silenced a little bit. And then just emotionally for Jordan Love specifically, he already checked off his first fourth quarter comeback win, and why not have it be tied for the largest one in Green Bay history?
Why not? I mean, just to be in the record books already as a Packer. And I think the other one is that I think he's only the third or fourth Packer ever to throw a touchdown pass in his first 3 games as a starter. And then, the comeback win, obviously, that's just crazy. I mean, he's already in the annals of Packers history, regardless of whatever happens moving forward.
Well,
pretty cool for him.
exactly. We talk about that Bears comeback where Rodgers got hurt and came back and erased that 17-point deficit. We went like 6-10 or something that year. Like, that was not a good year, and we're still talking about that game because of how amazing it was. So, I part of me really is sad that I couldn't get to watch it on TV, but it was cool to kind of take in as it was happening, and all around. I mean, obviously Jordan Love, is who we're focusing on, but Matt LaFleur, I've been a little critical of him the last few weeks on play calls. I didn't love it at the time, but once we converted, how about calling that 2-point conversion, arguably Jordan Love's best throw, just really cool. And then how about Anders Carlson to nail the PAT to win the game? I mean, PATs aren't just given anymore. I mean, that's a rookie quarterback.
and it's, like, to your point, especially for him. I mean, he missed several of these in the preseason, and I felt the same way. I'm like, okay, well, we're tied now. Let's hit this extra point, and I was thinking the same thing. I think most other teams would be like, all right, there we go. We're gonna take the lead, and I was kind of like, I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, because you never know. Those aren't gimmies anymore either.
Yeah, it was all around, and then we haven't even gotten to the point, the fact that Jair Alexander was out, Christian Watson was obviously out, Aaron Jones was out, Elton Jenkins, right? I mean, David Bakhtiari. Like, I kept hearing this throughout the week so far. 5 of our best 10 players on the team weren't in that game, right? And yes, Jordan Love, we should kind of flip to some of the things that we'd like to see improved before this Lions game. He did show some signs of weakness, but like, for him to be able to pull this off without all his guys, I mean, this actually is the first, I think, fair comparison to Jordan Love to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers with these young receivers wasn't able to win games like this last year, right? And with Jordan Love, I'm not saying he's better than Aaron or anything like that, but like, he might just be a better fit for this team, whether it's the age or whether it's the attitude of, hey, anything's possible. But like, Jordan Love with a very similar roster to last year is doing arguably more than Rodgers did last year. So I just think it's cool to watch. And I think that's a pretty fair statement to make.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we talked about it before. Aaron Rodgers last year was a subpar quarterback in the NFL. He wasn't very good. And we've been saying it all offseason. If Jordan Love can just be, top 12, top 15, then we're probably in a better position than we were last year, especially if our defense can kind of pick up that slack.
But the narrative there was that Aaron Rodgers is struggling with these young receivers and not on the same page with them, and so on and so forth.
Right.
Love is doing it with Romeo Dobbs' second year.
Yep.
And Wicks, right? Like
Jaden
Christian
Reed.
Watson, and Reed, right? It's like, that's my point. Like, he's doing it despite the excuses that Rodgers had last year. We can be done talking about that. But I mean, that's, I think, very important to note. Like, Love is new, but so are all of his weapons. And I just think that's, put a couple more games behind specifically the receivers. Mm-hmm. Even if Love doesn't improve at all, you're going to start seeing improvement in this offense.
Absolutely.
And Love will improve.
Yes, I think so. And we see it week to week. In this game, there were a couple of plays that just looked wonky. I mean, even when he ran that touchdown in, when he kind of planted his right foot and went, kind of sidestepped the defender. Some of these plays, he doesn't look like the smoothest, most athletic player. I won't blame this one on him, but it looked awful. That was the kind of that lateral to, was it Patrick Wilson? And then Patrick Wilson threw it back to him, and it was like at his feet. He fell backwards and slipped, and like if that were me, I would have, I would have ripped my groin in half. But he jumped back up and tried to make a play. I mean, that was one of the ugliest things I think I've ever seen in an NFL
Yeah,
game. I
that one
can't.
wasn't on it. That one
Yeah,
wasn't as much on him. I mean, he probably picked his head up a little bit, right, and allowed the bad throw to kind of throw him off a little bit. I'm gonna back up to what you said about that touchdown run, though. I mean, this is a top whatever defense. I know I questioned it in the last episode, but like those linebackers are for real. So for a young quarterback to be able to get in the end zone, I mean, Tom Brady, I know, got into the end zone a lot in a much uglier way, I would say, but it was still super efficient, and that's all you need. And then that QB sneak where it looked like he was going out of bounds and then got another 10 to 15 yards. I mean, I don't care how it looks. He's getting the job done on the feet, and it's something that teams need to account for now. Where with an older quarterback of any caliber, teams probably didn't have to worry about as much.
yep. My concern just is that like it worked that time, but the next time do they knock the ball loose and we turn it over in the red zone, or
Oh, come on.
does he get smoked right there by the defender? I don't know, but yeah, I mean, he's gonna get better. There was plenty of good in this game. Obviously, the fourth quarter was excellent, but I mean, there was a lot of bad that I think we should talk about too. Um, I guess one thing that I think is maybe going overlooked because the Packers won is the drops and the misses.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Love had a couple of really bad misses, including that interception. I don't know, that was like 6 yards ahead of Romeo Dobbs, like right into the bucket of the receiver, or I'm sorry, the defender. I don't know. I don't know what that was about. He missed Luke Musgrave on a wide open seam. I don't
Mm.
know. I don't know where the disconnect is on these because he seems to make these throws when it matters, and sometimes just misses them when it's maybe a second down or first down or something like that. I mean, you want your quarterback to play better when it matters, but also you want him to be able to to hit these sort of quasi routine throws. Um,
Mm.
I'm hoping that it's going to be something he improves on over the next couple of years, but I think what was more concerning to me was the drops. I mean, Jaden Reed had 3 or 4 drops before making a huge catch in the fourth quarter, and
Mm-hmm.
we had a couple of other drops too by some receivers and running backs. So I know that this is a young team and they're building chemistry. We talked about the fundamentals being sound before the game, and they weren't in this one. I mean, we had 90 yards in penalties. Tons of drops, miscommunications. I think was it Patrick Wilson or was it Emmanuel Wilson, or on that third down or a 4th and 2 where Jordan Love, expected him to be kind of wide right to the sideline, and he just, he quit on his route and Jordan Love threw it, and it was just complete miscommunication, stuff
In
like
the
that.
red zone.
I'm hoping that stuff's gonna improve over time, but is it something we need to be concerned about moving forward?
You know, I think in Matt LaFleur's press conference after the game, he put some of that on communication and these young guys not being great at relaying some of the calls. That's kind of tough to hear because it's like, yeah, they're young, but they're also professionals. So if he's saying stuff like that, and I know he's got to put a good spin on most things, I would hope that's going to improve, right? If it's just kind of some of the basic communication stuff. I mean, even going back to last week on the botched sneak by Jordan Love. I mean, communication errors can't cost us games, right? If you beat us with a Hail Mary, catch it or an amazing play, okay, we lose that way, fine. But beating ourselves, every team will talk about how you can't do that. And some of those things we should have lost that game. Right. Like even though we played, Love and the guys played amazing in that fourth quarter, and our defense, by the way, played amazing. So many mistakes and looking so bad for 3 quarters. We had no business winning that game, and thank goodness we did because now we're right in the thick of it in the NFC North.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be an exciting season. We've said it before, but I'll say it again. It's going to be up and down. We're going to get this, and I wasn't expecting to have so much up and so much down in the same game. With Atlanta,
within a half.
and then back to back. With Atlanta, it was just it was up and then down. And then we carried that down into 3 quarters of the Saints game, and then here we are on the upward trajectory. So I'm hoping we can carry that momentum into this next Lions game on a short week. I think
Thursday night football, baby.
Thursday night football, baby. So unless you have anything else, I'd love to preview this Lions game since we've got a short turnaround here.
Yeah, no, let's preview the Lions game, and I think it's interesting you just brought up Atlanta because we looked like we were handling Atlanta pretty well a week ago. And this last week, the Lions handled the Falcons really well. More concerning to me, the Lions again beat the Falcons 6-20 last week. Their running back Bijan Mustard, what's his last name?
Bijan Robinson.
Not Mustard. Bijan Robinson, I think only had like 30, 40 yards. I know that because I have him on my fantasy team. So this Detroit Lions team, who again upset the defending Super Bowl champions in Week 1 and kind of beat the Falcons a little bit worse than we did. This is going to be a tough game here, coming off a short week.
Oh yeah, and not only that, it's a divisional game. Lions are fired up. They love to come here in Lambeau, and they'd love to win this game to take control of first place in the NFC North. But yeah, I mean, after watching this game, there are a lot of things that stood out. I think the biggest thing to me is this Lions defensive line, because you said it. They held Bijan Robinson to fewer than like 50 yards. They sacked. What's his name? I'm forgetting the quarterback's name from Atlanta.
Ritter.
Desmond Ritter. Sorry. They sacked him 7 times in this game. They were getting after him, and I think that concerns me a little bit. I mean, we knew Aiden Hutchinson was going to be a force to be reckoned with, and he had 2 sacks in this game. But there were 5 other players that had a sack in this game, so they're bringing pressure, and it's been effective. We weren't really able to do that much against Desmond Ritter. Obviously Rashawn Gary was on a pitch count and I think only played 16 or 18 snaps. But, if they're able to generate that type of pressure against us, it's going to be a long day. And I don't know how we kind of overcome that, especially if Aaron Jones isn't going to be playing in this game. And we still don't know. It looks good, like he might be able to start, but if we aren't able to run the ball and keep the defense honest for the Lions, I just don't anticipate any game plan from our offense that's going to be able to counter that.
Is there any part of you that thinks, and I know the Packers would never send out a guy who's not ready to go 100%, and I know every game is very important, but is there any part of you that thinks that we were extra conservative with our injury report last week so that we could be ready for this short week Detroit? I'm specifically thinking about Jair, Aaron Jones, and David Bakhtiari. Do you think there's any chance we left them out so that they can go for sure the Lions?
Yeah, If I'm the coaching staff and the medical staff, I'm thinking, okay, we come back on a short week, Thursday night football, playing a division opponent. Yeah,
kind of a mini bye for the next week.
Yeah, exactly. A mini bye over the next week, and then we play Monday night, I think, and
then get a real bye.
And then get a real bye. So yeah, I think they're looking at this like, okay, well, if we can just get through this we can limp through this Saints game and get a win, which we did, which is incredible. Then we have we have a little bit extra time to rest. The guys can get ready for this game, because I think a division game is obviously more important than a conference game, but yeah, I think they were probably a little bit more conservative, and I think it was kind of like, okay, if we have any question marks, we're just going to sit them, and hopefully that's enough.
I asked that because I think you just nailed it, right? Like 7 sacks, right? Like I don't see how we win this game without our best offensive lineman out there, right? And I don't see how we win this game without us getting after our quarterback. We didn't talk about Rashawn Gary last week, by the way. Amazing, 3 sacks. He looks like we should have paid him before the season started because he might end up costing us a little bit more. But like a guy like Jair, right? Getting Rashawn Gary getting Rashawn Gary in the defensive line to pressure Goff, who is known to cough up the ball, and then we need guys like Jair and Walker to catch the interceptions and actually take full advantage of this.
Yep.
Here's an interesting stat I saw. For every pick, I think it's 3 or 4 turnovers that Goff has given up so far this year, he has followed that up with a touchdown drive the next drive.
Yeah, and then
so we need to take advantage of those opportunities where he throws you the ball. We can't be dropping those. because I think that's 100% the game. So if we don't have our offensive line, David Bakhtiari protecting Love, and if we don't have our number one cornerback Jair on a very good wide receiver in Amon St. Brown, we're gonna have a tough go at it.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned Jared Goff, and I mean I don't know if we would call him elite, but he's what I would call tier two. I mean, he is a top 10 quarterback, and he's been to a Super Bowl. You know, he led the Lions last year to kind of almost coming back for a playoff spot, beat us at Lambeau to ruin our chances of going to the playoffs. They've got some weapons too. I mean, they traded T.J. Hawkinson to the Vikings and drafted Sam Laporta at tight end, and he's looking like he's going to be better.
Yep.
You know, and then they've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's, you know, emerging as a really, really good wide receiver for them. And then they've got an Aaron Jones-esque running back in Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, he's their RB2 at this point in the season, I think, but he also is number 3 on the team in receptions. So he is a guy that can stretch you from anywhere on the field. You can line him up anywhere, and he's a threat. So they go ahead.
That makes me nervous.
Yeah.
That makes me really nervous because like against the Falcons, I don't want to see Preston Smith lined up in the flat, right, against a much smaller, much faster running back, right? That's how the Falcons specifically.
Oh yeah.
Converted a few very key third and fourth downs.
Yeah, explain to me how you know Devondre Campbell or Quay Walker is on Bijan Robinson. You know, with
Right.
You know on third. Like, explain that to me. How in what world does that make sense? But we've seen it too. You know, we exploit that matchup against other teams with Aaron Jones. And if you can get that matchup, then you're going to take advantage. You're going to exploit it, and it's going to lead to big gains and conversions. So I think we have to be ready for that. But
do
again,
you think we see those? Do you think we see those guys I was talking about on the field? Do you like what's your gut say about Aaron Jones, Christian Watson, David Bakhtiari, and Jair? Do you think we see 2 of 4 of them, 3 of 4 of them, all 4 of them? What's your gut?
oh man, I would say we see three of them.
Who's not playing?
Yeah, and so it's for me, it's either Jair or it's David Bakhtiari. I want to put my money on Bakhtiari playing. I think so. I think we see Jones, Watson, and Bakhtiari in this game. I think Jair Alexander is kind of I'm on the fence with him, but I think we see 3 or 4 of those guys starting this game.
Yeah. And that injury list, I don't have it in front of me, but I know got a lot longer. I think everyone just kind of goes on the injury list on a short week. I think you're right though. I think we see David Bakhtiari. I personally think that this last game was intentional so that we could have him in the Lions. And so far, this is the biggest game of the year, right? Jordan Love showed up, you know, in the fourth quarter during the biggest moment of last week's game. Well, now we finally have a real test against a division rival, a team that's proven themselves so far this year in the Lions. So this would be, even though we're home, we're not favored. I'm going to pull that line up here in a minute. But this would just be a huge, huge, huge win if we can find a way to pull it off. And just to continue this rant, we're talking about trying to win games right now. And again, 4 weeks ago, all I wanted to see was improvement week to week to week. And I thought I was going to go into every game saying like, well, not a big deal if we win or lose. But we're in a position where we can have sole ownership over the NFC North.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just so like cool to see this 180, and we still haven't seen the best of Jordan Love yet. I'm convinced of that.
Yep, I'm convinced of that too. And you know, it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a fun game. It's second home game in a row, Thursday night football, prime time. I think a lot of people are going to be watching. It's going to be exciting. I don't know what's going to happen. But why don't we get into our predictions or our keys to success at least? What do you think we have to do in order to win this game?
I think I already said it. I think we have to get after Goff, and we need Goff to give up the ball. We have to, unlike last week, we have to win the turnover battle. To give ourselves short fields like we did in the Bears game. Give Jordan Love the ball on the midfield, and I think he can make the Lions pay. And I say it every time. I hate long developing plays. With this Lions defensive front, who had 7 sacks last week, let's get the ball out of the backfield as quickly as possible. Those slow developing sweeps or or these kind of cutesy plays that have yet to really work. Let's just play real football and let's just take it to them. As far as who's going to win, well, the Lions are a 1.5 favorite. The over/under is 45.5 points. Now, though I really want to see the Packers win at home against a divisional rival, and I really want to see us be the number one team in the NFC North, I'm not very confident. I have this game as a loss. That offense is pretty explosive, and that defense in the Lions is pretty solid right now. So I see us losing 27-17. How about you?
Okay. I'm with you, and I'll get to that in a second. But you mentioned Aaron Jones, and I agree. I think a key to this game is to be able to run the football. And that does a couple things. It opens up play action. It helps protect Jordan Love a little bit. It helps keep our offensive line, less tired, I guess, because pass blocking is always longer than a run block play, and it keeps them a little bit more fresh. But we just have to be able to block the Lions' defensive line and Aiden Hutchinson and give Jordan Love time to make some throws and make some plays. I'm gonna say one more thing, even though I think we're only supposed to pick one or two, but execution. Clean up the errors. That's penalties, that's drops, that's overthrows, that's miscommunications. Clean that stuff up, and I think we've got a really good shot to win. But like you, I don't think we come out with a win, unfortunately, in this week. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it might come down to the wire, but I think the Lions ultimately win this one 24-23.
God, I want to win so bad, though.
Same. Yep, absolutely.
All right, well, let's bring that good attitude like the players did in the fourth quarter of the Saints game. That does it for us today. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Green and Golden Boys, a Packers podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your favorite podcast service. And as always, Marcus, go, Pack, go.